The interrogation chamber pulsed with a rhythm. It matched no living heartbeat. Red-black light bled through the walls like vessels beneath skin. The heat pressed against everything inside it, a dry furnace wind. It made the air itself feel old. Inquisitor Zeth floated at the center of the room. His form was a column of swirling shadow traced with veins of dull orange light. He watched the human through the shimmer of his own containment field. She sat suspended in a column of invisible force. Her spine was held upright by nothing but the energy that caged her. Her wrists were bound behind her back, and her short, uneven hair stuck to her forehead in the heat. Her eyes were open and tracking. She had not spoken since they dragged her from the salvage pod. Not a word, not a sound. Translator Jex stood at the far wall. Her crystalline body refracted the red-black light into shards of color scattered across the floor. She raised one arm, and the harmonic layers of her voice filled the room. Inquisitor, her vital signs are stable but unusual. Heart rate is 43 beats per minute. This is low for a creature under restraint. Zeth turned his attention toward the translator. The orange veins in his form pulsed once, a slow question. Low relative to what standard? Any standard? I have cross-referenced every species in the galactic registry. No bipedal organic of her mass should maintain that rate under physical threat. Zeth studied the woman again. She stared straight ahead at nothing. Her face carried a fading bruise across one cheekbone, a patch of purple and yellow looking weeks old. Her posture did not sag. She sat in the containment field like a stone in a river. He spoke, his voice was a resonant vibration. The low harmonic passed through the air and pushed against the surfaces of the room. It vibrated in the human's chest cavity. He could see it, a visible tremor against her collarbone. Identify yourself, state your vessel of origin, state your mission parameters. The human blinked once. Then nothing. Zeth waited. The room's circulation system labored against the heat. It was a constant hum of moving air, smelling of ozone and heated metal. Jex shifted her weight. Her crystalline facets caught the light in a new pattern, a brief rainbow that died as quickly as it formed. No answer came. Zeth extended a thread of his awareness toward the control panel behind him. He increased the gravitational pressure in the room by half a standard unit. The air thickened. The walls seemed to flex inward. Even Jex leaned forward, bracing against the added weight. The human's breathing did not change. Her chest rose and fell at the same rhythm. Her eyes remained fixed on that distant point. Her fingers moved behind her back. A slow pattern. It might be a counting ritual. It might be a communication signal. Inquisitor. Jex's voice carried a harmonic of unease now. I am reading her bone density now that the grav field is stabilized. It is 40% higher than the galactic average for a species of her size. The words hung in the heated air. 40%. Zeth let his form still. The orange veins dimmed to a steady pulse, his equivalent of a held breath. He had interrogated 47 species across 12 star systems. He had broken priests and warriors and diplomats and children. He had never needed a full biological scan before the first question. Run it, he said. Full spectral, cellular density, organ redundancy, nervous system architecture, everything. Jex did not move immediately. She stood frozen, her crystalline body scattering light in erratic bursts. When she spoke, her voice had dropped to a two-part harmony, the layered tone of genuine concern. Inquisitor, a full scan requires direct contact. I must approach her. Then approach her. Jex crossed the room in measured steps. The heat did not seem to affect her crystalline body, but her movement carried a hesitation that Zeth had never seen from a gemmery. She stopped at the edge of the containment field. She extended a slender crystalline arm toward the human's shoulder. The woman did not flinch. Jex touched her. The contact produced a soft chime, the sound of crystal meeting flesh. A shimmer ran through Jex's body as her internal systems began the scan. Data flowed, patterns resolved. The silence stretched for 14 seconds. Then Jex withdrew her hand and stepped backward, 3 full steps. Her body had gone still. The light inside her dimmed to a faint, steady glow. Inquisitor. Her voice was barely two-part now, almost single. The human skeletal structure shows extensive remodeling. Old fractures healed and reinforced. The healed bone is denser than the original material. The pattern is consistent across both arms, 3 ribs, the left clavicle, and both femurs. Zeth felt his form flicker. The orange veins shifted to an uncertain shade he could not control. It was a pulse of color that came before thought. "She has been broken before," he said. "Multiple times," Jex confirmed. "And she has rebuilt herself stronger each time. The original bone density was already exceptional. The remodeled tissue exceeds it by a significant margin. This is not damage that healed poorly. This is damage that healed intentionally." The human blinked again. Her fingers stopped moving behind her back. Zeth drifted closer to the scan results projected on the far wall. The data streamed in glowing script only he could read. It was a cascade of numbers and biological markers. It told a story no theology had prepared him for. This creature had been shattered, and she had chosen to grow back harder. He turned to look at her. She met his gaze. Her eyes were gray and flat and utterly without fear. He had come to this interrogation confident. He was a priest of truth. He had extracted confessions from beings who worshipped gods of entropy. He had broken the silence of creatures that had not spoken in 1,000 years. The human sat in his containment field. Her hands were behind her back. Her heart was beating 43 times per minute, and she had not given him a single word. "Zeth." The security officer at the door did not move. His hunched silhouette of solidified darkness remained motionless. His bronze armor glinted in the red-black light. "Prepare a surgical interrogation suite," Zeth said. "We will need direct neural access." Zeth's Vox grill crackled. "Understood, Inquisitor." The human's fingers began moving again behind her back. A different pattern now, faster. Jex saw it too. She took another step backward. "Inquisitor," she said. "She is counting. There is a rhythm to it, a sequence." Zeth watched the human's hands. He could not see them directly, but he could feel the slight disturbance in the containment field as her fingers traced their pattern. "Do you know what she is counting?" "No," Jex said, "but I do not think it is a random behavior. She began when you mentioned the surgical suite. She stopped when you looked at her. She began again when Zeth responded." The human's eyes moved. They shifted from Zeth to Jex to Zeth and back. Her breathing remained steady. Her heart rate had not changed. She was not waiting for them to finish. She was waiting for something else. Zeth's form flickered again, that same uncertain orange he could not control. The human's bones showed fractures. They had healed stronger. She had been broken before. She had rebuilt. And she was sitting in his interrogation chamber with her hands moving in a pattern. It might be a prayer. It might be a countdown. He had no idea which one he was about to find out. The medical bay burned white. Crystal panels in the ceiling threw hard-edged light across the room. No shadows remained deep enough to hide in. The air tasted of sterile gel and recycled oxygen. It felt thin and cold against Zeth's plasma form. He stood at the foot of the diagnostic table and watched the human sleep. She was wrong. Everything about her felt wrong. He could not yet name the reason. The medical drone completed its scan sequence with a soft chime. Its floating black sphere drifted back from the table. A three-dimensional display projected into the air above Maia Penrose's unconscious body. Layers of data unfolded in green light. A web of biological anomalies pulsed in slow rotation. Zeth studied the projection. He did not have eyes, but he had attention. The focused shimmer of his gaze pressed against the data like a thumb testing a blade's edge. He saw the healed rib fracture first. The fourth left rib had broken and remodeled. The scan dated the injury to approximately 10 months ago. The bone snapped clean through. It fused back together with a density increase of 12% at the callus site. That rate matched a high-velocity impact, not a fall. Something struck her with enough force to stop a vehicle. He noted it. He moved on. The scar on her left kidney caught his attention next. The image showed a linear trace of dense tissue. The organ had been cut, repaired, and healed, shrapnel removal. The fragment measured 3 centimeters long. It entered through her lower back, passing between 2 ribs without breaking them, a wound of precision. The angle suggested she stood facing the blast when the piece of whatever it was punched through her body from behind. Zeth pulled back from the projection. He let his plasma hum at a lower frequency. His species used that gesture for contemplation. The human had been shot from behind while facing an explosion. She survived both. She had been crushed by a collapse. She healed. She did all of this alone in a dying void pocket. She had no medical support and no hope of rescue. He looked at her face. The bruise on her cheekbone had faded to pale green. Her breathing was steady. Her heart rate climbed from 43 to 52 since the scan began. She was not afraid of the medical drone. She was not afraid of the table. She was not afraid of him. That fact settled in Zeth's core like a stone. He turned to Jex. The Gemery translator stood against the far wall. Her crystalline body refracted the white light into scattered rainbows. They danced across the ceiling. She had not spoken since they brought the human up from the interrogation chamber. "Run a linguistic analysis on her vessel's transmission logs," Zeth said. His voice carried no inflection, but the orange veins in his body pulsed brighter as he spoke. "The salvage pod must have retained fragments." Jex's harmonics shifted. She was hesitant. "I will need physical access to the pod's memory core. The damage is extensive." "You have permission, do it." She moved to a data terminal on the far wall. Her crystalline fingers, sharp and translucent, settled into the interface ports. The terminal hummed as she connected. Her body dimmed slightly. Her light redirected inward as she worked. The silence stretched. The medical drone hovered, sensor filaments trailing, waiting for orders. Then Jex spoke. Her voice came layered, 3 pitches at once. Each note carried different weight. "I have fragments, short phrases. The human language is not one I recognize as standard colonial." She paused. One phrase repeats, "quiet reach." Zeth's attention sharpened. "A location. Unknown, not in any star chart I can access. There is another fragment longer." She projected the audio into the room. A woman's voice emerged from the terminal speakers. It was not Maia Penrose. The voice was different, older, rougher, with years of vacuum exposure. The recording crackled with static. "Lamplighter run is compromised. Repeat, lamplighter run is compromised. The relay went dark at Mark 11. We are burning for the reach, but the drive is shedding mass. If this transmits, tell Saul we found it. Tell them it was real. Tell them." The recording cut. Static filled the room. Jex disconnected from the terminal. Her light returned, but it was dimmer now. "The words match no human colonial dialect I have in my database. The grammar structure is archaic. It predates the standardization period by at least 2 centuries. Zeth absorbed this. A human dialect 2 centuries out of date. A location called Quiet Reach. An operation called the Lamplighter Run. A woman who survived a ship's destruction and spent 8 months alone in a collapsing dimension. He had come here expecting a smuggler, a heretic to be processed, a mind to be broken. Instead, he had found something else. "Wake her," he said. Jex stepped toward the diagnostic table. She placed one crystalline hand on the human's shoulder. A soft pulse of energy passed through her fingers. It was a gentle stimulant designed to ease a patient back to consciousness without shock. Maia Penrose's eyes opened. She did not flinch. She did not gasp. Her pupils contracted once, adjusting to the light. Then her gaze tracked across the room with deliberate calm. She saw the medical drone first. It was a black sphere hanging 3 meters from her face. Its sensor filaments trailed like the tendrils of a deep-sea creature. Her hand moved. The restraints caught her wrist before her fingers reached her throat. The motion was unmistakable. She reached for something, checking something, protecting something. Zeth watched the gesture. He watched her fingers curl against the restraint, testing its give. He watched her eyes track to her own chest, to the space below her collarbone, and then away. She was not afraid of them. She was afraid of what they would find inside her. Zeth stepped closer. The pressure of his attention intensified, a weight against the air. "You have something." It was not a question. The human's eyes met the shimmer where his face should be. She said nothing. Jex's voice cut through the silence. Her harmonic layers were uneven now. A note of strain ran beneath the words. "Inquisitor, the radiation compound in her marrow. I have been reviewing the trace patterns." Zeth did not look away from the human. "Speak." "The patterns are not random. They are structured, 3 distinct isotopes arranged in a repeating lattice." She paused. "That is not contamination, that is a cipher." The room went still. A cipher, a message encoded in the marrow of a human survivor, written in radiation that matched no known source, hidden inside a woman who spent 8 months alone in a void pocket. She had nothing but her own body to carry it. Zeth's plasma flared. His orange veins blazed bright, then dimmed. "We need to find it," he said. "The message, the object she is guarding, whatever she is carrying." He turned to the medical drone. "Full cavity scan every centimeter. I want to know if there is something inside her that should not be there." The drone hummed assent. Its sensor filaments extended. They reached toward the human's prone body. Jex did not move toward the control panel. She stood frozen. Her crystalline form refracted the white light into patterns. The patterns scattered and broke across the walls. She had seen something in the radiation trace. It did not fit. A pattern looked deliberate, intentional, designed. A design, it made no sense in any context she understood. She did not speak. She did not obey the order. Zeth felt the hesitation. He felt it as a pressure change in the room, a shift in the air. Jex, his voice carried the weight of command. The Gemery translator looked at him. Her light flickered, a human gesture she had learned and could not suppress. "I need to check something first," she said. Her harmonics were thin, almost fragile. "Just one thing, please." The medical drone hovered, waiting. Zeth's attention pressed against the room like a held breath. The human on the table watched them both. Her hand was still curled against the restraint. Her fingers were open, ready. She had not spoken a single word since she woke. But she was waiting, too. And she was not afraid. The cold metal bit into Maia's bare soles. Rivet heads and welded seams pressed patterns into her skin she would feel for hours. 3 days in the field had left her legs numb and untrustworthy, but she stood anyway. She did not sway. Inquisitor Zeth hung in his column of shadow and orange light, a fixed point of patience. Translator Jex flickered at the room's edge. Her crystalline body caught the red-black glow and split it into nervous rainbows. Behind Maia, 2 meters back, Security Officer Reth stood with the gravitic pulse pistol drawn. She could hear its hum at the edge of hearing, a subsonic promise of crushed tissue. Maia opened her mouth. Her voice came out rough from disuse but steady. "I will answer one question for every hour I am allowed to move freely on this ship." Zeth's orange veins pulsed once, slow and dismissive. "You are in no position to negotiate, human." Maia shrugged. The movement felt foreign. Her shoulders were stiff from 3 days of suspended stillness. Then she said nothing. She closed her eyes. The chamber went quiet. The hum of the pulse pistol filled the space. 4 seconds. Jex's layered harmonics broke the silence. "Inquisitor, the human's heart rate has dropped again. 52 beats per minute, it continues falling." Zeth said nothing. 10 seconds, 20. Maia stood with her eyes closed, her breathing slowed. Her body settled into something that looked like sleep. The pulse pistol hummed. 30 seconds. 45. Jex's voice carried an edge now. A harmonic scraped against the room's dimensions. 43 beats per minute. This is below sustainable threshold for consciousness in bipedal organics. Maia heard her. The number meant nothing. Her body had learned to run cold in the void pocket. It had learned to slow its own engine when there was nothing to burn. She let it drift lower. The cold metal under her feet was the only anchor. 2 minutes. Reth shifted his weight behind her. The bronze armor plates scraped against each other, a sound like grinding stone. 3, 4. The ceiling vent above the chamber's center irised open. Light poured in. Not the red-black pulse of Voidflare illumination. It was different light. Coherent, bright. A cascade of motes streamed down. They arranged themselves into a sharp triangle. It hung in the air above the interrogation floor. This was a Solari, a being of coherent light. Envoy Lur had arrived. Her voice came from everywhere at once, a vibration in the air rather than a sound. Why has a salvage operation produced a political detainee? Zeth's orange veins flared. This is a matter of faith and heresy, Envoy, not politics. Lur's triangle rotated. Her motes scattered and reformed closer to Maia. She circled the human's head, examining her. The light from her motes caught the fading bruise on Maia's cheekbone. It caught the uneven crop of her hair and the stillness of her closed eyes. Maia felt the motes near her face. Each one carried a specific frequency signature. It was a resonant pattern in the electromagnetic spectrum. It told her things the Solari would never say aloud. She opened her eyes. "Your collective emits on a frequency I recognize," Maia said. Her voice did not rise. It did not strain. It simply stated a fact. You were near the quiet reach 8 months ago. Lur's motes went dark. For half a second, the chamber lost a piece of its light. The triangle collapsed into scattered points of dim gray. Each mote was a dead ember hanging in the air. Then they reignited, bright and sharp, and pointed directly at Maia. Zeth's form shifted. The shadows around him tightened, pulling inward. The orange veins in his body pulsed faster, a staccato beat of interest. "You recognize the Envoy's transmission signature," he said. It was not a question. Maia kept her eyes on the motes. She answered him anyway. The human survey vessel Lamplighter run was in that sector. We picked up a relay fragment before we were destroyed. The Solari were there. They saw something. They left without reporting it to the Council. Lur's motes drew into a tighter formation, a single point of light aimed at Maia's face. The human female is speculating based on corrupted salvage data. No, Maia said, I am not. The word came out flat, certain, the way a person says something they have been holding for too long. Jex shifted her stance. Her crystalline body refracted the light into patterns. They broke across the walls. Her voice came out smaller than before. The layered harmonics thinned into something almost fragile. The salvage pod logs referenced the quiet reach, she said, but they did not contain directional data. They did not indicate any other vessels in the sector. Maia turned her head to look at Jex. The motion was slow, deliberate. The translator was afraid now. Her rainbows flickered. Maia understood. Fear was the correct response to knowledge, knowledge that should not exist. The logs did not need to contain directional data, Maia said. The relay fragment was encrypted in Solari Standard. Your council's protocols are old. We cracked them 200 years ago when we joined the Assembly. We never told anyone. Zeth's orange veins went still. All the light in his body stopped moving at once. The furnace heat of the chamber felt suddenly cold. You are saying humanity has been decrypting council communications for 2 centuries, he said, without detection. Maia smiled. The expression felt strange on her face. It was like stretching a muscle that had forgotten its range of motion. We are good at listening. Lur's motes exploded outward. They streamed away from Maia, away from Zeth. They gathered into a column of light that shot toward the ceiling vent. The triangle reformed for an instant, a gesture of exit. Then the motes poured through the iris and vanished. The vent sealed shut. Silence pressed into the room. Reth took a step forward. The pulse pistol hummed louder. Zeth raised a shadowed arm, stopping him. The Inquisitor turned his attention to Maia. The pressure of his focus was physical, a weight against her skin, a shimmer in the air between them. She did not flinch. She counted his pulse flares, 37 beats per minute. He was thinking. He was recalculating. He was a creature of faith and certainty. And she had just handed him a truth that fit no doctrine. He needs me alive, Maia thought, and he knows I know it. The cold metal was still under her feet. The rivet heads pressed into her arches. She felt the weight of her own body, the dense muscle and rebuilt bones, the healed fractures that had made her stronger. She felt the hum of the void pocket still singing in her cells, the memory of 8 months alone in a collapsing fold of space. Zeth spoke. His voice was quieter than before, slower, carefully chosen. What did you find at the quiet reach? Maia looked at him. She held his attention for a full breath. Then she turned her gaze to Jex, to the crystal woman whose rainbows had gone dim, whose body was pulling inward like a fist. 1 hour, Maia said. I answered one question for Envoy Lur. You owe me a debt, Inquisitor. Zeth's orange veins pulsed, once, twice, a rhythm like a heartbeat learning a new tempo. Very well, he said. 1 hour. Reth will escort you to the observation deck. You will have the run of that space until the cycle completes. Then we talk again. Maia did not thank him. She turned and walked toward the chamber door. Her bare feet met cold metal. Each step was a recitation of the ship's geography. The texture of the floor told her she was moving toward the central axis. The slight curve of the corridor said they were in the forward section. The air pressure change as the door opened told her the observation deck was pressurized at a lower atmosphere than the rest of the ship. She would learn everything before the hour ended. Behind her, Reth followed. The pulse pistol hummed. She did not need to look back. The light panel above Maia's sleeping mat flickered. 73 seconds, then a pulse of brightness that never quite held. She had counted it 400 times since they locked her in this converted storage locker. She would count it 400 more if that was what it took. The door opened without a hiss. Jex stepped inside. Her crystalline form was dimmed. The usual rainbow refraction was reduced to a dull amber glow. She carried nothing. No weapon, no scanner, no recording device was visible in her transparent flesh. Her voice came layered and soft. The harmonics were subdued. I need to understand, she said. The radiation trace in your marrow matches a compound used in Solari sterilization protocols. That is not something a salvage survivor carries by accident. Maia did not move. She sat cross-legged on the mat. Her back was against the cold metal wall. Her hands rested open on her knees. Her eyes stayed on the Gemery translator. Jex reached into a cavity in her chest and withdrew something small. The motion was slow, deliberate, a display of trust. She placed the object on the deck between them. The data core. It sat on the metal floor, catching the flickering light. It was a cylinder of human-manufactured alloy no larger than a thumb. The casing was cracked. One damaged port showed bare internal wiring. The delicate circuits were exposed to vacuum. It looked like nothing, a piece of salvage, a broken component from any human vessel. Maia's breath caught in her throat. She had not breathed properly in 3 days. She had not let herself breathe. Breathing meant living, and living meant carrying, and carrying meant the weight would never end. But her eyes went to that cracked cylinder and she breathed out. A long, slow exhale emptied her lungs completely. "That is the only copy," she said. Her voice came out raw, unused. It scraped against her throat like broken stone. Jex's crystalline body dimmed further. Of what, she asked? Her layered voice was barely more than a whisper. Maia looked at the core. She looked at the flickering light, the cracked casing, the exposed wiring. Wiring that could fail at any moment and take everything with it. Then she looked at the gemery, at the crystalline translator. The translator who had touched her skin in the interrogation chamber and felt her stillness as something unnatural. "The truth about the lamplighter run," Maia said. "The operation found your god and killed everyone who saw it." Jex's crystal body fractured. The sound was high and sharp. A crack echoed in the small metal room like a pane of glass breaking underwater. Fissures ran through her transparent flesh. Thin lines of white light bled from the fractures. Her form quivered. The fissures spread and contracted in a display her species used for emotional overload. She made no sound. The crack was the sound. Maia watched her. She did not reach out. She did not offer comfort. She had spent 8 months in a pocket of hidden space learning that comfort was a luxury she could not afford. She had spent 3 more days in this ship learning that trust was a weapon she should not hand to anyone. But she looked at the data core on the floor. She knew the weight it carried. She knew because she had carried it in her chest for every one of those 8 months. It had crushed everything soft inside her until only the hard parts remained. "Your god," Maia said, "the eternal flame, the cosmic truth your Voidflare theocracy worships as the source of all meaning." Jex's crystal stopped fracturing. The fissures held. White lines were frozen in her transparent body. "It was a reactor," Maia said, "a Solari power core. It went dark. It stopped functioning. It became a ball of cold energy drifting in the void, and your people found it and called it sacred. But the Solari knew what it really was, so they built a story around it. They shaped the truth into a religion. They let your species worship a broken machine for 300 years. Jex's voice came out fractured, matching her body. "How do you know this?" "Because the lamplighter run found the records," Maia said. "The Solari kept logs. They kept schematics. They kept the original engineering reports from before the core went dark. And when a human survey vessel stumbled into the quiet reach sector 8 months ago, they found every single one of them. They found your god in its original packaging, a dark reactor, a piece of hardware with a manufacturing date and a serial number." Jex's crystal shuddered. The fissures pulsed. "You are telling me the Solari created a false religion." Maia shook her head. She leaned forward and picked up the data core. The cracked casing was warm against her palm. The damaged port was rough against her fingers. She had held this cylinder before. She had held it in the dark of the void pocket. She had turned it over in her hands while the walls shimmered and the generator hummed and the silence pressed against her ears like water. "No," Maia said, "the Solari did not create it. They found it already formed. Your species discovered the dead core. They worshipped it without ever understanding what it was. The Solari saw an opportunity. They let the worship continue. They fed it. They shaped it. They made sure no one ever looked too closely at the glowing ball of light your people called divine. And when the lamplighter run got too close, they made sure the ship vanished." She held up the core. "This is the only surviving record of what they erased. The lamplighter run transmitted everything to the mothership before it was destroyed. I copied the logs. I hid them. I brought them into the void pocket when the attack came. I survived 8 months alone with the knowledge that if I died, the truth died with me." Jex's crystalline body began to fracture again. The sound was lower this time, a groaning crack like ice breaking under pressure. Her form flickered between amber and white. The colors shifted in patterns Maia could not read. Outside the door, Reth's Vox grill crackled. A metallic sound, a breath drawn through the distortion of his voice system, the shuffle of bronze armor against metal deck plates. He had heard the fracture. He was listening. Maia's hand closed around the data core. Her fingers found the damaged port, the exposed wiring, a fragile connection. It held everything together. One wrong motion and the entire record would corrupt. One sudden move and 300 years of truth would vanish into static. She had seconds. Jex's crystal body stabilized. The fissures did not heal, but they stopped spreading. Her layered voice came out steady, controlled. The voice of a translator who had made a decision. "You cannot trust me," Jex said. "I am bonded to this vessel. I am bound to the Voidflare theocracy. My loyalty is written into my biology." Maia looked at her. She looked at the fractures in the Gemmary's crystal. The white lines still pulsed with the aftershock of revelation. "I know," Maia said. She held the data core in both hands. She could feel every edge, every crack, every broken circuit that might or might not hold long enough to tell the story. Reth's footsteps came closer. One step, two. His heavy tread pressed against the metal deck. Each footfall was a countdown. Maia looked at Jex. She looked at the crystalline translator. The woman had touched her skin and felt her stillness. Now she carried a splintering truth in her own body. "I do not need you to trust me," Maia said. She stood up. The core was pressed against her chest. "I need you to tell me one thing." Jex's crystal pulsed. "What?" Outside the door, Reth's breathing stopped. The silence that replaced it was worse than any sound. Maia tilted her head toward the door, toward the warrior ordered to guard her. "Are the repair drones stored near the hull breach station?" she asked. "Or did they move them after the salvage operation?" Jex's crystal flickered. The question made no sense to her. Reth's Vox grill crackled again, a burst of static, a word forming behind the distortion. Inquisitor Zeth had been alerted. The clock was already running. Maia held the truth in her hands and waited for an answer she could use. The chapel was a sphere of absolute darkness, broken only by the flame. It burned in the center of the room, a captive star suspended in nothing. The light had no source and cast no shadows. Zeth knelt before it. His form collapsed into a tight knot of shadow and ember. He meditated on the fourth verse of the eternal cycle. His prayer was silent but structured. A repetition of awe and submission had anchored his people for 4,000 years. The door irised open behind him. He did not turn. Reth's footsteps were heavy on the deck plating. Each one was a clank of bronze against metal. The human's bare feet made no sound at all. Zeth felt her presence as a disruption in the room's energy field, a cold spot where the warmth of the flame failed to reach. "Inquisitor," Reth's voice grated through his Vox grill. "The prisoner." Zeth finished the verse. He held the final syllable in his mind. He let the silence after it stretch into something sacred. Then he opened his awareness to the room and felt the others. Jex near the door. Her crystalline structure refracted the flame's light into scattered rainbows against the curved walls, Lur somewhere above. Her motes were arranged in a tight line, watching. Zeth did not rise. He kept his form low to the deck. His voice emerged from the darkness as a low harmonic. "What do you believe, human?" Silence, the flame flickered. He watched the light play across her face. The bruise on her cheekbone was fading now, yellow at the edges. Her eyes were fixed on the flame. "I believe in evidence," she said, "not revelation." The words landed like stones in still water. Zeth felt the ripple pass through the room, through Jex's refraction pattern, through the shimmer of Lur's attention. He rose slowly. His form expanded upward. The veins of orange light in his body shifted to a deep, pulsing crimson. "The eternal flame has guided my people for 4,000 years, he said. "It is the source of our unity, our purpose. It is the voice that speaks when we are lost and the fire that burns when we are cold. It is not revelation, it is truth." Maia looked at the flame. She studied it the way a surgeon studies a wound, without reverence, without fear. She looked back at him. "It was built by Solari engineers using a stolen human power core," she said. "The voice in your prayer cycle is the residual echo of a human technician. She died trying to shut it down." The chapel went silent. Zeth's form went black, not the black of shadow, not the black of dimmed light, total absence. The veins of orange vanished, the red pulsing vanished. He became a void in the shape of a being, a hole in the room's light. The flame could not fill it. Lur's motes scattered across the ceiling like startled birds. They regrouped into a jagged line, then a broken circle, then a point. It was a sign of distress her species had not used in public in a century. Jex made a sound like wind through crystal. A fracture, a crack, something breaking. Maia did not move. "You carry lies," Zeth said. His voice came from the darkness, from the space where his form had been. It had no body to shape it. "You carry them like weapons." "I carry the truth," Maia said, "and I have the evidence to prove it." She reached into the pocket of the loose tunic they had given her. The gray fabric hung from her shoulders. Her hand emerged holding a portable reader. It was a thin slab of human manufacture that fit in her palm. Jex had provided it. Jex had given the prisoner the tool to shatter their faith. Zeth's form reasserted itself, a column of shadow and anger. The orange veins were now a violent red that pulsed in rhythm with nothing. "You will not speak heresy in this place." "I will speak what happened," Maia said, "and you will listen." She pressed the reader. The chapel's speakers hummed to life. They were designed to carry the flame's resonance into every corner of the ship. A voice emerged from the silence. It was a human voice, a woman's voice, clear and desperate and 40 years old. "This is Senior Engineer Harper of the Lamplighter Run. The reactor is going critical. The Solari sealed the access ports and abandoned the upper levels. The flame is not a flame. It is a power core manufactured at the Fataris Orbital Facility, serial number 7841, Solari Engineering Division. They built a religion around a malfunctioning human energy source. They are leaving us here to die." A pause, the sound of alarms in the background, something metallic crashing. "If anyone hears this, the Solari know what it is. They have always known. They built the prayer cycle to mask the core's operational frequency. The technician's voice you hear in your rituals is our resonance engineer, Gloria Williams. She died on this ship trying to shut it down. Her vocal pattern was recorded into the cycle by Solari programmers to give the flame a voice. You have been praying to a dead woman for 300 years. The recording ended. The chapel's acoustic system carried the voice across the entire vessel. Every Voidflare on board heard it. Every being of shadow and flame, every warrior and priest and servant of the eternal flame, heard a human woman named Gloria Williams tell them their god was a machine. Zeth stood frozen. His form cycled through colors he had never worn, the despair black of a collapsed star, the rage red of molten rock, the cold gray of ash. He passed through each one without stopping, unable to settle, unable to find the shape of his own being. Jex's body fractured, literally. A white crack ran from her shoulder to her hip, light bled from it. Lur said nothing. Her motes had arranged themselves into a single, unbroken line. It was the Solari posture of absolute denial. She did not move. The flame burned on. Maia lowered the reader. The chapel was silent except for the crackling of the plasma. A sound. It now carried the weight of artifice. Zeth's form settled. It settled into a cold and terrible stillness. The veins in his body went dark. A flat gray that held no warmth, no anger, no grief, just silence. "Who else knows?" he asked. His voice was calm. It was the calm of something that had stopped feeling. Maia met his gaze. Her eyes were tired, but they held no fear. "There is a second data core," she said. "It contains the original Solari communication logs, the orders to build the cover-up, the names of the engineers who programmed the prayer cycle. It was sent to a human colony on the edge of the quiet reach before my survey team was killed." Zeth's form did not change. "Someone else is out there with the full story," Maia said. "I made sure of it." The flame flickered. The light danced across the walls. And somewhere across the ship, 73 Voidflare warriors and priests and administrators stood in corridors and cabins and watch stations. Their forms cycled through colors they had never worn. Their faith cracked in ways they had no words for. Because a dead woman named Gloria Williams had spoken in their chapel. And they could still hear her voice in the silence. The bridge was a ring of compressed darkness, a circular platform suspended in a void of shimmering black. The only light came from the central holographic display. A sphere of pale blue data rotated slowly in the air. Maia sat in the command chair. It was a structure designed for a creature of plasma and shadow. The seat was too cold against her back, too tall. Her feet barely touched the floor. The metal vibrated against her soles, a low thrum. It ran through the ship's bones. Reth stood at her right side. His bronze armor caught the blue light. His hands were empty, no gravitic pistol, no weapon at all. He had left it in the chapel, a broken thing on the cold stone floor. Zeth stood across from her, a column of darkness with veins of dull orange. They barely pulsed now. His form had lost its sharp edges. He looked deflated, hollowed out. His attention pressed against her skin, but it felt different now, not a demand, a question he was afraid to finish. Jex moved between the display and the communication console. Her crystalline body refracted the blue light into rainbows. They crawled across the walls. Her voice came in fractured harmonics, 3 tones that slipped out of sync with each other. The array is active. I have connected to the primary relay. Lur was a knot of light in the far corner, a sphere of intense white pulled tight and small, like a star trying to collapse into itself. She had not spoken since the chapel, but she was still here, still watching. Maia placed her palms on the cold metal of the chair's armrests. Her fingers found the edges, the seams where the metal had been forged. She focused on the vibration, let it ground her. The lamplighter was sent to investigate an energy anomaly, she said. Her voice was flat, a report, not a story. The council classified the mission as geological survey. That was a lie. Zeth's form rippled. Who knew the truth? The captain, the science officer, the engineer. Maia paused. And the Solari. Lur's tight sphere pulsed once. A flash of white threw shadows across the bridge. Maia continued. The anomaly was a fusion core, a Solari power plant, abandoned and hidden inside an asteroid field. The reactor was stable, but its containment field was failing. The radiation signature matched the eternal flame's energy frequency exactly. Zeth's orange veins flickered. He said nothing. The lamplighter found it, Maia said. They found the core, they found the engineer. A human engineer, Jex whispered. Her voice cracked on the last word. Gloria Williams, she had been there for 3 centuries. The Solari built the reactor around her cryopod after she died. They used her neural pattern to modulate the output frequency. The prayer cycle was never a prayer. It was a calibration sequence. The voice your people have worshipped as the eternal flame is a dead woman reading a diagnostic script. Jex's body fractured. White lines spiderwebbed across her crystal. She let out a sound that was not a word, a harmonic of grief. Maia kept going. We sent 2 data cores. The first contained the Solari's complicity logs, evidence they knew the origin of the flame and concealed it. That core went to the colony at quiet reach. Where is it now? Zeth asked. His voice was thin, a whisper that barely carried. I do not know. The colony went silent 3 months after the lamplighter filed its last report. And the second core? Maia reached into her jacket and pulled out the cylinder. It was scratched and dented, no larger than her thumb. The damaged port caught the blue light, a single dark eye. This one. It contains Gloria Williams's final testimony, her full medical and neural records, and the Solari engineering schematics for the reactor. Show me, Zeth said. Maia held the core up to the holographic display. The light caught the cracks. For a moment she saw her own reflection in the scratched metal, a hollow face, a fading bruise, eyes that had not closed properly in 8 months. She plugged the core into the console. The display changed. A woman's face appeared projected in blue light. Gloria Williams was young, mid-20s, dark hair pulled back, a calm expression. She wore a human engineering uniform, the collar frayed. The patch over her heart showed a ship's name Maia recognized, the Lamplighter. The recording began. Gloria's voice was steady, clinical, as if she were reporting a routine system check. This is Senior Engineer Gloria Williams, serial number 4491 Echo Tango 7. I'm attached to Solari Reactor Unit 7, designated Eternal Flame by the local population. My neural pattern has been integrated. It is now part of the frequency modulation circuit. I am told my body is dead, but my brain is still processing. I can feel the calibration cycle every time they pray. It is a machine. It is not a god. Jex collapsed to her knees. The sound of her crystals hitting the metal floor was a sharp chime. It hung in the air. Maia turned to the communication array. The dome of blue-white light was rising above the bridge, expanding through the hull, reaching out into the void. The ship's antennae aligned, the signal calibrated, the data stream queued. She looked at Zeth. He stood motionless, a column of shadow with dying embers for veins. His attention met hers. She felt the weight of it, the pressure of a being who had spent 4,000 years in service to a lie. He knew what she was about to do. He knew what it would cost. He did not move. Open the channel, Maia said. Zeth's voice was cracked and thin, broadcast on all frequencies. The dome of light pulsed once. Then it expanded. A wave of blue-white energy washed through the bridge and out into the galaxy. The console displayed the data stream. A torrent of files and recordings and testimony poured into the relay network at lightspeed. The bridge fell silent. Lur's tight sphere of light compressed further, smaller and brighter, until she was a single point of white flame. Then she expanded. motes scattered in a cascade of silent fury. "You have condemned yourselves," she said. Her voice was cold, no inflection, a statement of fact. Zeth turned to face her. "Leave this ship. I have already broadcast the full conversation to the Solari Collective. The galaxy will know within hours. Your truth will not survive the noise of its own telling." "Leave," Zeth said, "or I will have Reth remove you." Reth's hand moved to his holster. It was empty, but he did not flinch. He stepped forward. The sound of his boots on the metal floor was heavy and final. Lur's motes compressed into a single point of blinding light. The light hung in the air for a moment, a star in the dark, then it vanished. The bridge was quiet again. Jex picked herself up from the floor. Her crystals left small scratches in the metal. She moved to the console and typed a command. The display showed the broadcast's progress, a wave spreading through the network, reaching one system after another. "It is done," she said. "The signal has reached the colony at quiet reach." Maia waited. The console pinged. A reply came back, not on the standard diplomatic channel, on a human emergency frequency. The voice that spoke was cracked and old, a woman's voice rough from years of disuse. "This is Station 7 at quiet reach. I have received your broadcast." A pause. "I am Solari. I have not slept in 40 years. I have the second core. I have been waiting for someone who can end the lie." Another pause. "The gate is open. You have a destination." Maia looked at the holographic display. The woman's face was still there, frozen in blue light. Gloria Williams, trapped in a machine, waiting for someone to listen. Maia stood. The command chair was cold behind her. The vibration of the ship still ran through her bones. She had somewhere to go. The airlock cycled open, and Maia stepped into the smell of growing things. The scent hit her first, green and sharp and alive. It cut through the recycled air and the sweat and the industrial tang of asteroid rock. She stopped on the threshold and let it wash over her face. 8 months without a living plant. 8 months of breathing filtered nothing. The colony walls were gray stone carved smooth. The ceiling was a projection, a false starfield rotating slowly overhead. Human stars, Sol's pattern close enough to recognize. Someone built a sky here. They hung it from a rock at the edge of nothing. A woman stood 20 meters away, waiting. She was old. Her face was a roadmap of scars and sun damage and hard living. Gray hair pulled tight against her skull. Her hands were calloused and her shoulders were straight. She held the second data core. She held it like it was a child she had carried across a battlefield. She looked at Maia like Maia was a ghost. Delaney said nothing for a long moment. Then she lifted the data core an inch and said, "They told us everyone on the lamplighter was dead." Maia's voice came out rough, unused to conversation. "I was late to the rendezvous." Delaney laughed. It was a dry sound, cracked. A laugh that had not been used much in 40 years. Her eyes glistened. "Late. 8 months late, and here you are, walking out of an airlock like you took the wrong turn on the way to dinner." Maia felt something in her chest loosen. The first human laughter she had heard since the lamplighter died. The colony gathered behind Delaney. Maia saw them in the dim light, a small crowd of survivors from 3 species. Faces turned toward the airlock, humans in patched clothes, a few gemmery, their crystalline forms dimmed and quiet, a cluster of Voidflare refugees, their dark shapes pressed together like shadows seeking shelter. They had been waiting in the dark for 40 years. Waiting for a door that might never open. Maia looked at Delaney. The second data core gleamed in the old woman's grip. 40 years of silence, she said. 40 years of hiding. Delaney nodded. "We kept the signal dark, kept the colony off every grid. We knew what the Solari would do if they found us. So we dug in and we waited and we hoped someone would come home." Zeth stepped forward. His form was dimmed. The orange veins were barely pulsing. He had been quiet since the chapel, since the truth had hollowed him out. But now he spoke. His voice was flat, stripped of the old certainty. "The Voidflare theocracy will be in crisis within weeks," he said. "When the truth spreads, the faith fractures. Millions of believers will have nothing to hold on to." He paused, the silence stretched. The false starfield turned slowly overhead. Delaney looked at him, she looked at Maia, then she held out the data core. "Then we give them something new to hold," she said. "Not a lie, not a machine, a truth they can build on." Maia took the core. It was warm from Delaney's grip. She pressed it against her chest, over her heart. The other core had rested in that same place for 8 months. Behind her, the airlock hissed shut. The colony's lights flickered and steadied. The gate was open, the truth was out, and somewhere in the dark between stars, a dead woman's voice was still speaking. Zeth stood across from her, a figure of shadow in the faint light. He watched her hand on the core, his form shifted, the darkness receded. A faint, hesitant orange returned to the veins of his body. It was not the light of faith, it was something else. "My people are broken," he said. The words were a low vibration, the sound of a world ending. "We built our civilization on a voice, and the voice was a ghost in a machine. We have nothing left." "You have yourselves," Maia said. She lowered the data core. She looked past Zeth at the small huddle of his people near the airlock. They were dimmed and still, their forms drawn inward, lost. "You have a choice." Delaney stepped beside Maia. The old Solari's face was hard, but her eyes were not. "We have been more than a refuge here," she said to Zeth. "We have been a library, waiting. We have the full Solari archives from before the deception, the science, the history, the truth of what was stolen from all of us." She looked out at the assembled faces. Human, Gemery, Voidflare. "The Solari built a galaxy on lies. They will not let it fall without a fight. This station will not be safe for long." Maia nodded. The wait had not ended. It had just changed shape. "We need ships. We need allies. We need to be ready." Zeth's form pulsed, a single beat of that new orange light. He turned and looked at the faces of his people. He saw their confusion. He saw their despair. But beneath it, he saw something else. The first flicker of a question, what now? He faced Maia again. His voice was still quiet, but the hollow space inside it was gone. "The Voidflare fleet will listen to an Inquisitor," he said. "Some will call me a heretic. Others will see a path forward. We have a flagship. We have warriors. They no longer have a god, but they still need a purpose." He gestured toward the colony, toward the shared sky. "Show us the way,"